Welcome back, everyone, to episode 19 of We've Lost a Step with Ethan and Caroline. Caroline, how the hell are you?
I'm great. Well, physically I'm not great, but
Oh,
yeah, I have a we lost a step for this week. But my
uh-oh.
past week has been good. I haven't really done much. I said I was gonna relax this weekend, which is what I did. Focus on my fitness, which took a turn for the worst. I should not have focused on my fitness this weekend. I'll give you a little rundown, and I think it'll make people laugh of who know the game. When a few weekends back, when I was at Colgate graduation, I was playing beer die with some friends, some of the guy friends who were there, and Sid. And it started to rain, so all the grads went inside to eat dinner, and all the wags, as I like to refer us as, the boys don't like it as much, but the wags were like, let's just keep playing beer die. Like, who cares? Like, it's raining, whatever. It was sprinkling, but it did get slippery because we were playing on grass. And there were a few moments where my one leg went one way, my body went the other to make some plays. I was trying to go all out for the boys. And I felt a few tweaks, but moved on with my day. A few tweaks in the hip and the groin. And I was like, okay, that's funky. Went for my longest run yet. I'm trying doing like a little
Wow.
program this weekend, this in my life. So this weekend, I was like, let's go for the longest run yet. I'm going to go to Central Park. It'll be pretty. It's beautiful outside. Great idea. We got to mile 4 and I felt some.
Mile 4?
I told you I was going for a long run.
Wow.
I felt some intense pain, but I was like, we're only a mile from what I was trying to do. I was trying to hit 5 miles. And I had my little Nike person talking in my ears.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, what's one more mile? I significantly strained my groin. It is an impact on my daily life. It is bad. I
Whoa.
barely walk out of the park to get the bus home. Like it was ugly. I was limping. People probably thought something is really wrong with her. Got home Saturday. I've been in shambles ever since. It's been hard to sleep. It hurts to sleep. It hurts to walk. It's bad. Like it's really, yeah. So I've had to go back into my brain of like what happens when you do things to your muscles, how you're supposed to take care of yourself.
Yep.
So I'm really taking care of myself at this moment. I'm trying to recuperate. I'm going on a trip this weekend that will include a lot of walking.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get my body back. But it is embarrassing that the initial tweak happened during a drinking game. And I'm just like too old. I can't even like go for a run. I warmed up. I did everything I was supposed to. So we've lost a step in my household significantly. It's really impacting my ability to even walk around. I tried to go to CVS today. It's just a mess. So we're working on that. We're trying to improve. So that's what I'm battling at the moment. How was your last week?
I can't really compete with that.
Yeah, tough.
Uh, you've definitely lost a step. I know that maybe in like episode 2 or 3, I talked about pulling my hamstring and
Yeah.
how I was basically debilitated. So I can certainly empathize. But number one, welcome to adulthood where you don't hurt yourself really doing things other than like maybe playing drinking games and falling down. So
So
that's where you
sad.
that's where you tweaked it. And now, of course, number two, you decided to go for a run that was longer than like 2 miles. So that's like self-inflicted wound, of course. But good for you for actually making it that far with kind of a banged up groin, because that's pretty impressive.
I'm trying to improve my fitness, trying to get back into athlete life. Clearly, I'm just not meant to. This is my
Seems
another
like
sign I need to stop.
seems like you either need more warm up or you have to try something else other than running.
Yeah, clearly Pilates is the way of the future for me.
Yeah. Pilates only, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my last week was it was pretty solid. We did some wedding stuff over the weekend, had a couple really good dinners. Mom and dad were in town, so we did that. Other than that, Saturday, once again, sent it a bit. I don't know why we continue to do this to ourselves. And then yesterday we looked at houses for a really long time,
Wow.
which I will talk about at the end of the episode today. But yeah, just kind of business as usual. The days are creeping up. We're headed to Maine this weekend for a good friend's wedding, so that should be pretty fun. And yeah, other than that, just been trying to keep up to date on hockey, on the NBA, on golf, on the LPGA, just kind of trying to stay with it, stay not losing a step, I
I
guess.
know. I think you're under 50 days till the big day.
You see, you have a countdown. I don't even have a countdown. So
I'm
I don't
checking that
know.
registry daily. Don't you worry. I know
At,
that
at, at
now.
a certain point, there's gonna be nothing left, and then you just have to write us a check. So,
Or I'll just buy you something fun off the top of my head.
oh, that's true too.
I have a brain as well that could find something.
You're
But
not
I'll
like the
contribute.
lion in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, yeah. Is he the one who's missing a brain?
If I only had a
I think
brain, I
that's the
think.
scarecrow.
Oh, it's a scarecrow.
I don't
Sorry.
know. I'm scared of that movie, so I saw it once
That's
when we were
such a good
little.
movie.
'Cause
Such a
I
good
think it's
movie.
like dad's favorite, but that
The
movie
Wiz.
scares
No,
me.
it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the
Also
Wizard of Oz.
scary.
So the remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is way scarier with Johnny Depp than the original with Gene Wilder, because the original is just a pretty solid movie, except for freaking the grandpa who all of a sudden he gets to go to the chocolate factory and he's able to get out of bed, no problems whatsoever. But other than that, he couldn't put food on the
Yeah, and
table.
he's
So
sleeping in a queen bed with three other people.
with
It's
three other
wild.
people and they're sleeping back and forth, feet
It's
to head.
crazy. Crazy. No, Johnny Depp is a really scary Willy Wonka. Just putting that
Yeah,
out there.
yes, I
Yeah.
would agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, you said you're keeping up with sports, so let's dive in to our sports moments. And don't worry, everyone. Soon the NHL and the NBA will be over, and we're going to be lost for a little bit of time about
Yeah, I
what
don't know what
to
we're gonna
talk
talk
about.
about.
But we're trying to branch out into other things. Talked about NASCAR last week. Talk
True.
about a little women's golf this week. But we should start with the NHL Stanley Cup update. I'm currently also watching the game right now for the Panthers in Vegas. Vegas is
Me
up
as well.
1-0 in the series currently, as well as up 1-0 in the game right now, which is making me really sad. But my opinion, the refs were a major factor in game one, as they always are. It seems to be in every single sport. Somehow this keeps being a storyline in every game. But major factor, Panthers can't keep up with the Vegas power play at all. Even tonight, Vegas is 1 for 1 on the power play. So it really can't keep up. Major factor, as well as having your best player turn the puck over for the game winning goal, is tough. You rely on these players to make big plays to win games, and then they make some plays that just lose a game for you. And it's just a hard sport when you're good and you're relied on in every situation.
Oh, to be good. Oh, to be good.
Oh.
You get to play all the time, you get to score all the goals, you get to make the mistakes. But yeah, so I'm also watching the game. The refs appeared to have really shown up tonight in a big way. They just called two penalties in a row on opposite teams, of course, but the Florida penalty that was called, Paul Maurice lost his shit, and he seems to be getting more and more frustrated as the periods go on here in the finals, and he was even frustrated during the conference finals too. But of course, he can't say anything in a post-game press conference about the refereeing because he'll get fined, and he gets a hefty fine. Florida just had a really good chance.
Yeah, so that.
Um,
Oh, the goalie's slashing Kachuk while he's skating away. I love it.
I
Punch the
will
goalie in the
say,
face.
Matthew Kachuk, great player, awful turnover. I have a bone to pick with the referees though, because that was a high stick. That
It
was
was
a
a
high.
high stick,
That was a high
100%. I
stick.
watched the replay
Yeah,
100 times, and every time I watched it, I was like, "Isn't that a high stick? Isn't that a high
yeah.
stick?" And they reviewed it so fast, and I thought Paul Maurice's comment after the game, they were like, "Oh, well, you challenged it. They reviewed it," and he was like, "Yeah, the review was really fast. They had to get to calling another penalty on us right after that." So it's very interesting. It's interesting how in all these sports now everyone gets fined for talking about the refs. Like they're a part of the game. You should be able to talk
Yeah.
about their performance as well as your own team and the other team's performance.
If players and coaches can be criticized, why can't referees be criticized? Is it because they're league employees? I would assume that's the reason, of course. But the other thing that I want to talk about at the moment, because it appears you're about 30 seconds ahead of me in this game, is I saw a tweet yesterday about what occurred on Saturday night during game one. And it would seem that the cable networks are 30 seconds to a minute behind of real time action,
Yeah.
which is completely unacceptable, as I assume I'm about to watch the puck go in the net or something.
You still haven't seen it?
No, uh, terrible. So awful goal by Shea Theodore. I think that was Shea Theodore, but whatever. So again, live right now on the podcast, we are talking about how it took it appears I'm almost a full minute
Yeah.
behind you on your streaming service. And what are you watching on
YouTube
YouTube TV?
TV.
How is YouTube TV so much further ahead than Xfinity Comcast? Like, I don't understand that. I didn't even think it was an issue until I read this tweet yesterday. And now I'm like, okay, so I'm just always going to be 1 minute behind real time action, which is, I guess it's okay if they want to like do the bleep out button
Yeah, but it
for
shouldn't
the
be a minute
swears and
behind the
stuff, but
other
I shouldn't be a minute
services.
behind. Was that Shea Theodore? Or was number 23? I don't even know
I
who
don't
that
know.
is. So, long story short, it was a high stick. I don't want to hear anything from any of these fake ass Vegas Golden Knights fans because like, oh, well, he was leaned over and the puck was above, it wasn't above his shoulder. Like the rule is the rule. Like his stick was above his shoulder. If you do that, it's a high stick. I watched 5 different camera angles today, and it certainly looked like it
Yeah.
was high sticking. And again, it was freaking Mark Stone who didn't play all
Cheater.
year. He was on the long-term IR. He is the reason the long-term IR needs to be abolished from the freaking NHL. So
Cheater.
the goal shouldn't have counted because of a high stick, and it shouldn't count because he cheated the system for the whole year. So it should just get wiped out. Anything that he does in the playoffs, it just shouldn't count.
I agree. Everything should just
It
be
shouldn't
waved
count.
off. Everything should just be waved off. And I know we sound petty, but it is bullshit. And it's the organization's fault. It's not technically the player's fault for making that decision. Because I
Correct.
mean, he got
Correct.
back surgery, so your
Yeah.
thought is it's going to be a long time. Like that's the initial thought when you're thinking of recovery. But it's bogus when all these things keep happening. And Tampa did it too with guys who are like $9 million or $10 million a year, and they can sign like three dudes with that amount of money to make up. And I use it. I get it. You should use it
Yeah.
if you have it, but it shouldn't be a thing. That's just all I have to say about it. And he's a cheater, and everything should be waved off. He shouldn't
Yes.
even. He should be in the press box. He shouldn't be allowed on the ice. But whatever.
No,
But
he should have to sit on the bench in all his gear and just open the door.
oh god, that's horrible.
Well,
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. But I mean, game one, Florida came out really hot. I thought they were gonna
they
win.
did.
They haven't come out so hot in this game. And it just seems that Vegas is a hard place to play. So it'll be interesting when they go back to Florida. I mean, we're gonna assume that they're probably gonna lose this game. I'm gonna be a pessimist.
Yeah,
But
I would. I might make a little prediction that it's probably going to be like 4 games to 1 Vegas.
yeah,
Unfortunately,
I do.
like
I think that as well. They have too much skill. I mean, it's just if you
they.
look top down,
I mean, they were the best team in the West this season. So
yeah.
the first period just ended for me. It probably ended for you 5 minutes ago at this point, based on the streaming versus cable. So I listen. That is ridiculous. Now I'm going to be a skeptic. It's going to be really tough for football season. Like you see
I'm gonna
tweets
root a
happen.
lot for you.
It's gonna really be unfortunate. Well, we'll get to the house thing, but we're not going to have cable in that house. We're going to be using a streaming service of some variety. So
It's already
I'm at
decided.
live time.
Well,
Yeah, because
you can come over to my place and watch.
perfect. I'll come over to your place, your little 400 square foot studio. I'll
Yeah.
have to like sit in the bathroom to watch the games, but that's okay.
Come on, give me a little bit
I'm
more
I'm
respect.
joking.
We're clearly in two different areas of our life or times of our life.
Yes,
You're looking at houses. I have a 400 square foot studio. Just two types, really. We're
just
just going through different things,
we're
dealing
6 years
with,
apart. It's
yeah,
all good.
we're dealing with different things.
I'm getting married. You're not.
Exactly. There's so many things in life we're both just not going through in each other's lives. But let's move on from the NHL. We can do a quick NBA Finals update. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've watched 5 minutes of this
I've watched
series.
less than that.
So I don't know a ton. I do know that it's tied 1-1. I know that I've read on Twitter that all like the NBA pundits and all the NBA commentator people are saying that Miami kind of stole game two. But I do have to say, Miami has these dudes who are like undrafted, played in the G League, kind of quote unquote no name if you compare like and these sports that have like these big name guys. And they're popping off for like 25 points, 30 points, and they're leading the way, which is kind of cool to see for a team that, the super team era that we're in right now to have these guys who are, I guess, what you would say, like, they're not going to make it, they're not going to make an impact. But the Heat have kind of built their roster around these guys, and it's cool to see them win. Like, I don't really have a dog in the fight in this series at all. Like, I never had a dog in any fight, really, but it's 1-1. Play again tomorrow night back in Miami. So it'll be interesting to see once they're back kind of at home if they can also kind of steal one away there as well and get a lead in the first game.
So I just looked up the NBA G League, and this is going to be totally like off base,
The
whatever.
Go-Go, the San Antonio Go-Go, or
No,
whatever
that's
team I
that's
sent
the
you.
capital city go-go.
Oh, hell yeah.
So Washington, D.C. I'm not going to run through all the names. I'm just going to pick out a few. The Fort Wayne Mad Ants, like the little critter.
Hell yeah.
The Long Island Nets, like that's not creative at all.
Lame.
That's lame. The Motor City Cruise, so
Sick.
kind of lame. Raptors 905. So that's the Raptors team. Is that like the area
It
code or
must be the
something?
area code of whatever. They definitely don't play in Toronto, so whatever town in Ontario they play in.
They play in Mississauga.
Okay, I don't know the
So
Mississauga area code off the
me
top of
neither.
my head.
I mean, why would you? Here's a good one. The Milwaukee Bucks G League team, the Wisconsin Herd. Now
Hell
that's a
yeah.
good one. I like that one. Little did you know that there is a G League team in a different country. What
What?
country, not Canada, that do you think a G League team is in?
Brazil.
Mexico.
Oh, that was easy. I should have known that. It has to be like close enough to travel.
So they were founded in 2017. They joined the G League in 2021. The Capitans de Ciudad de Mexico. So the
Wow.
Mexico City
Wow, that's
Captains.
very interesting.
They currently don't have an affiliate team, but there's a few teams in the league that don't have affiliate teams. So I'm very confused by that. But yeah, so
Yeah, but sometimes the AHL, which for people who don't know, that's like the G League equivalent, I guess, for the NHL. Even
yes.
I would say the AHL obviously is more established, but um a couple of those AHL teams, like they share an NHL team. It's very odd. I could never really wrap my head around it. Like sometimes an NHL team has like two teams
Yep.
that they can like pick from. And then I'm confused if they could like swap out guys if they're paid for the Charlotte Checkers and the I don't even know another team other than the Rochester Amherst, the Syracuse Crunch.
There you
If they
go.
could like trade some D, if they think, oh, he might be a better D pair with this. Like I don't get how that works if you share because what if you end up playing each other in the playoffs? And it's like, oh, both our teams are in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Is it just like independent organizations?
I'm not really sure how that works, to be honest. I know that the Carolina Hurricanes were doing that at one time with the St. Louis Blues, I think.
Weird.
Um, so they would send like some of their prospects to the AHL, but then the Blues would also, but then they play on the same, and then they play in the same AHL team.
That
Like
doesn't.
it's
How do you pick if you're like, hey, I really want John Smith, and the Blues are like, well, I really want John Smith right now. We just had a winger also get
no,
hurt.
no, 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 no. So they're the property of that NHL team, so they can only get called because they're under contract
Oh,
with the parent club. So
oh.
so they could only get called up to the Hurricanes
So you could
or
have
the
a D
Blues.
pair that's like a Blues
Yep,
prospect and a Hurricanes
yep.
prospect, and that's weird
Those teams are either like super successful or they're really really bad
or
because of
trash. Yeah,
because because the farm clubs typically want to do like run the same system as the NHL
yeah,
team, et cetera, et cetera. So then if they can't agree on that, then they're not going to do well. But we're going down a rabbit hole that
yeah.
we
We
don't need
are.
to go down. The NBA Finals, the Heat are the Heat. I mean, whatever they've made it there as an 8 seed, so they're going to win a game or two. And it's the Denver Chicken Nuggies. They're gonna get microwaved by the Heat. They got microwaved in game two.
Ew, a microwave chicken nugget.
I don't know. Put them in the oven. It takes too long in the oven. So microwave the chicken nuggies. They did it in game two. We'll see what happens in game three. Jokic only had 4 assists in game two. So apparently
He had
a lot
40 points.
a lot of his game though is ball distribution. It's not all scoring. So when they win, he's supposed to score and distribute. So he wasn't distributing last night. Game three, I don't know. It's probably like Thursday because they played on Sunday. They probably give him 100 days off because I don't know. That's just the way it is. But super interesting story out of the LPGA. Rose Zhang, she was a Stanford Cardinal women's golfer, two-time defending NCAA national champion, which I believe that was the first time ever that someone has defended, at least on
Yeah,
the women's side. I think on
yeah.
the women's side, maybe on the men's, it might be the first time ever in college Division One golf. She played in her first career pro event on the LPGA tour, and she freaking won it in a playoff. And
Crazy.
I'll let you tell the rest of the story.
It's just insane. I watched because I was like, "There's no way." And
Yeah,
she had the lead. She had the lead going into Sunday, so it was
I
like,
know.
is the rookie gonna crumble? But like, she's never crumbled in anything she's ever played. So no. And even watching her, cool as a cucumber. You couldn't even tell. She was like annoyed that the pace of play was slow. on one of the holes because they were dealing with like a rule. They had to like a girl ahead of her had to like, or a woman ahead of her had to like drop. And so she was in the fairway for like 15 minutes, like a long time. And
I would go nuts.
she was like complaining about it, just being like, oh God, like this is so slow. Not like stressed, intense, which I thought was cool. But she's the first player in 72 years to win on the LPGA tour in her debut. Absolutely insane. It's just crazy when someone has like so many expectations to be like the next great player ever. I think she has like the same amount of wins at Stanford that Tiger did, or more than Tiger. So it was like, okay, is Rose actually going to be this pro? And then ends up winning in a playoff, like so clutch. She stuck like a 190-yard hybrid on the second playoff hole to like 8 feet, and the other woman hit it to 40 feet and then putted it over the green. Like just total clutch from Rose. But interesting stat, in her last 12 stroke play results, so that includes college, she has 10 wins, which
It's crazy.
includes the Augusta National Women's Amateur, which is the biggest women's
Yep.
amateur tournament, the NCAA tournament, individual, as well as an LPGA tournament. So, like the three biggest tournaments you could play as a woman golfer and wins them. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy. And she was like, yeah, I got my card automatically from winning, but I have to decline the invite for next weekend because I got to go back to Stanford. I have three finals. I got a
Oh, I didn't
paper to
see that.
write. Yeah. And she's like, I got to move out of my apartment in Stanford because this, like, the school year's over. And
Oh
she's like, I
shit.
kind of just want to like hang out with my friends for a week before I go on. And
Yeah.
she's like, I'm not dropping out. Like, I'm going to class all next year while I'm on tour. It's just, she's just a
Michelle Wee did that too at Stanford. Michelle
phenom.
Wee did the same thing. Yes. So to quote a movie, he's a freak. He's the fastest kid alive. Name the movie.
I have no fucking
Super
idea.
bad. Super bad.
Like, you could have paid me $1 billion. I would have never gotten that.
But yeah, so no, she's unbelievable. Super fun to watch. And there is actually a really cool like 30 to 40 minute
Yep.
kind of documentary on YouTube from the No Laying Up podcast where they followed the Stanford Cardinal women's golf team during a tournament. I believe it was last season.
Yep.
So now 2 seasons ago. So if you're looking for kind of a human interest type thing and you want to check that out, it's super interesting. They do some really cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think knowing myself too, and people who don't always watch some of these other sports, I always like to watch the more like human side of the thing,
Yeah,
like stuff like that was really cool. The no laying up stuff was cool because I followed the whole team, which was
yeah.
interesting, as well as stuff like on Netflix, like Breakpoint. Like, I don't know anything about tennis, but that was really cool. Now I'm interested, like the French Opens right now. I'm like checking who's winning. So it gets you involved more because you actually know who the people are instead of being like, I have no interest in golf. But you can be like, oh, Rose seems like a great person, great kid, like interesting to follow. And it's just something, a good entry point for people to get interested in certain sports that you might not like already inherently enjoy.
I agree. That's how I got interested in Formula One,
Yep.
and now I don't know. I've lost my interest in that. I can't get behind the Max
Me
Verstappen
neither.
personality. To me, he just strikes me as just a king douche number one, to be quite honest. And I realize that you have to have the very confident, somewhat arrogant personality to be the best in the world, to be an F1 driver, because they go like 230 miles an hour and they're nuts. They're crazy. They don't just turn left, as we talked about last week.
Yes.
But I can't get behind kind of him winning week after week after week, and it's just Red Bull versus Ferrari now. Mercedes is kind of in the mix. Happy for Red Bull, whatever, but they're actually I'm not happy for Red Bull.
I don't
So
care.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know why I said that. I don't really care. It was nice when maybe there was a little bit of parity and it was Lewis versus Max. Now it's just kind of Max versus the rest of the field, only if Max crashes out. So to go back to the documentary stuff, the Drive to Survive documentary, super interesting. It's a great way to recap the whole season, get a behind the scenes look into how F1 works. But now I think they've put out what, 4 seasons.
I think
So
so, yeah.
after the first couple of seasons, I was like, wow, this is really cool. So now I'll pay attention. And then I tried to watch season 4, and I knew that Max won the world championship, and I said, I don't really care.
Yeah, it's hard when you already know the result. But
Yeah,
it's a good way to get interested. Like, I'm interested now in F1 from that as well.
right.
But yeah. So very interesting stuff. And YouTube has a lot of this stuff too. They
Yeah.
do like one-offs of these different sports. But we can dive,
Something, hold
yeah.
on. One more thing, and it's kind of football adjacent a little bit. Netflix is working on a documentary that covers the 2006 to 2009 Florida Gators,
Oh
where
yeah,
they
Swamp
had
Kings.
Urban Meyer, Aaron Hernandez, Cam Newton, the Pouncey brothers,
Tim Tebow.
Brandon Spikes, Tim Tebow. It's going to be super, super interesting. I think it's supposed to come out in August, and I realize I just skipped ahead on our sheet, but oh well.
You did. It's okay. No, but I agree. It's going to be interesting. A cool way because that team is very interesting.
Crazy. And Aaron
So
Hernandez,
many.
I mean,
Yeah.
everyone knows that. And Urban Meyer, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm super, super interested in that.
There's so many people that so many things have happened now to them that it's going to be cool to like see what it was all with all of them in
Yeah.
one place in college. But
Yep.
yeah, football adjacent for our last story, going back to NFL, but more of like an opinion
Yeah.
conversation and kind of give people some insight of what's going on in the NFL, which obviously, if you follow sports a little, you know that sports betting has really taken off, like DraftKings and Penn gambling and all that stuff. Like all of it has really taken off. The leagues have really embraced it. A lot of them are,
Some of them. Some of them.
well, so, I mean, I just watched a DraftKings commercial for
True. True.
NHL. So like they're allowing
Oh,
sponsors.
I see an ad right now, which means I'm 1 minute behind you.
There you go. So all these things are happening, and mobile and online sports gambling is now legal in 21 states that are home to 15 teams. So really interesting. The NFL has 3 official sports betting partners just for themselves. And Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones, which are NFL owners, are actually investors in DraftKings. So has really infiltrated the sport completely. Like it's something that people talk about now on top of fantasy football, which obviously is overtaking the sport entirely. That's why most people even watch football like so intensely. But a lot of stuff has happened this offseason with sports gambling, with NFL. The Athletic released an article that I read today about specific players that have been suspended. So at this point, 5 Detroit Lions, 1 Washington Commander have been suspended already, some for 6 games and some for the entirety of the whole season
It's
for sports
crazy.
gambling.
Crazy.
For they're not allowed to bet, obviously, overall on any football activities, which they all are aware of. But they're also all not allowed to bet on any other sports while they're on facility. So whether it be practice, the stadium, a plane, a team hotel, like
Wow,
anything,
the plane. Interesting.
anything that is owned by the NFL or the team
Okay.
paid for, they're not allowed to bet. And they obviously, when you're placing bets, you have to have like they can track where you're placing the bets from based on the state, like all the regulatory reasons. They have to know where you are. So they
Mm-hmm.
know when they're in these places. So all these dudes have been suspended for placing bets on facility, most likely the practice facilities, what everyone's saying. And now another Detroit Lion and an Indianapolis Colt are being investigated for sports betting. It's just very interesting to talk about because in the article that the Athletic put out, they interviewed a bunch of guys and they're like, "What do you know?" And they were like, "Well, they talk about it at the beginning of the season, like just be careful about sports betting." And guys are like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Like it's during like preseason, they're like thinking about 100 different things. And half the guys in the article were like, "Oh, we didn't know we couldn't even like bet on golf when we're at the practice facility. Like no one told us." It's in the manual, but the manual is 1,000 pages long. So really interesting. So just wanted to chat about like if you think it's reasonable that they're suspended for this, if you think it makes sense, if you think it's a good idea for the NFL to have like this strict of a policy for these players.
So I think that it's a great policy that they're not allowed to bet on football
Yeah,
because I have recently seen, now who knows if it's true because we've talked about my Twitter feed in the past,
true.
but I did see that may potentially one of the members of the Lions was betting on Lions games. And
Yeah.
there that might be, I think it was a little satirical, but I saw another tweet from PFT commenter that was just like, "Oh, this is so funny. Like, watch this replay." And the dude makes a terrible play,
Oh
and
yeah, I saw
and the
that.
Lions lose to the Texans. I'm like, is that satirical or is that
Yeah.
was he actually betting on the game? No one's ever going to really ever know until it comes out. So I don't think that they should ever be allowed to bet on the sport that they play, regardless of in facility or not, just because there's way too much going on there. They can influence the game way too much. I do think that they should be allowed to place the bets on other sports when they're in there for when they're in their own facilities. I really do. I mean, it has nothing to do with the NFL. I get the NFL kind of wants to control, well, not kind of. The NFL wants to control what the guys do
Yeah.
in in the team facilities. But if they're going to have three different gambling spot, if three different like gambling company endorsements, and then tell the guys like, hey, you actually can't gamble when you're in the facility, on the plane, in the team hotel on the road, like that shouldn't be considered a team owned kind of facility. But whatever, the rules are the rules. It's legal in 21 states now that are home to 15 NFL teams. So do I think that they should be allowed to gamble on football? Absolutely not. Do I think that they should be allowed to place bets on golf, hockey, soccer, whatever,
Yeah.
freaking MMA, Thailand, kickboxing, whatever it may be? Sure, I do. I think it should be allowed within the facility just because it has nothing to do with them influencing the outcome of an NFL game.
Yeah. I mean, I know their thought process is probably a slippery slope,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I just don't think it makes any sense if the NFL is making money off it to limit the guys to this rule. I agree, no football betting. I think that is definitely a slippery
Yeah.
slope. We
Oh
can
yeah.
see in the past with certain sports that can get crazy. But yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said.
What that's a first time in forever.
I know. My gosh, this is
Wow.
groundbreaking.
We're becoming adults. You're getting hurt. You're learning that you can't
Yeah,
work out as hard. It's really crazy.
I'm humbled. Well, should we move on to our now who's hot, who's not? Seems to be a recurring
Yeah,
segment for us.
it's a good segment.
It is. Let's start. You had the who's hot, the first who's hot of this week. Want to dive
So
in?
funny enough, I sent this one to you, and I sent it to you a bit sarcastically because I watched the video on Twitter of the Bills doing their groundbreaking ceremony for their new stadium, which is going to be ready to go supposedly for the 2026 season. So we still have three seasons to go. I just had to count on my fingers like an idiot, but
Oh
that's
my
okay.
God.
So pe people can see that when they watch the video if they want. But the video was horrible. There was like 50 people there. They took some dirt that had already been dug up and threw it. Like the dirt had already been dug up. So that's why I technically wanted this as a who's not hot of the
You
week.
didn't clarify what
I
you
know I didn't
wanted.
clarify, but it is also a who's hot of the week because they're getting this unbelievably cool new stadium.
Yeah.
So my who's hot of the week is the Bills getting their new stadium.
The video is funny. If you guys haven't
It
seen
was
it,
like terrible.
you should go check it out. It's hilarious because it's like gold shovels. It's stupid. But
And
who's hot?
the dirt was already in a pile
I
for him. It
know.
was already dug up. It was so
I know.
stupid.
Ridiculous. But moving on to who's not, this was mine. And this is a more societal rule. So if you do this, change your behavior immediately right now. Don't tell me, but change your behavior. If you walk down the sidewalk, I don't care where you live, big city, little town, whatever,
Big city, little city.
and you talk on the phone, okay, whatever, you have headphones in, I don't care. But if you talk on the phone on speakerphone while you're walking on the sidewalk or like you're on the bus, like you're a sociopath. Put it up to your head. But you could talk on the phone just normally, like in the olden days, up to your ear. Like you don't have to have headphones. I don't want to hear your conversation. And also, I'm gonna add a point. If you talk on speakerphone and you scream talking on the phone, like that phone can't pick up your audio, you're also a sociopath. So change your behavior, people. If you do this, don't tell us, just change your behavior. This is your moment now. Moving on to your next who's hot.
So the Apple product event was unveiled today. So we've got a multitude of different things. Not sure if anyone has seen it, but now you're going to be able to leave face mails, as they say, on
Yes.
FaceTime. CarPlay is now going to be accessible to everyone with iOS 17 within the same vehicle, and you can join their session, which, by the way, that's a terrible idea. That's
I
a
agree.
legitimately awful idea, but it's available and it's just something. But then they unveiled Apple VR Pro, I believe it's called, or Pro Vision, starting at a cool $3,500.
Insane.
But their product event, I mean, it's always kind of the got to see what they're going to be rolling out. It does look like there's some pretty cool stuff. So mine is the Apple product event is the who's hot. Oh, it's 3-0 Vegas.
Yeah, it is. They did just score, or they scored a couple minutes ago. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, I'm not gonna buy it. And like you can have the VR and like watch multiple screens or like play video games. I don't know. It seems pointless.
I mean, you can
But
just like get
whatever.
some screens in your house and do that too.
Yeah. Oh, it The who's not is also
It's
yours
mine.
as
It's
well.
mine. So
Yes.
I also read a story in the news. It was a Delta flight, I believe, from Paris to supposed to be somewhere in the US, but it was forced to land in Toronto, Canada for an unruly passenger who apparently was intoxicated and acting like an asshole. And he forced the plane to land early. The not hot of the week is every person that acts like a dickhead on planes and either makes them too late to take off, cancels the flight, the police have to come on the plane, or forces them to land early. Like, what is wrong with you that you think you're more important than? I bet you there was 250
Yeah.
people on this flight, and they just don't get to go where they're going because you're a dickhead. Like, figure it out. He's
I
the
did.
who's not hot of the week.
I agree. We've all signed this societal contract that we're
Yeah,
going to be locked
miserable.
into a metal contraption
Yep.
for however much amount of time, and we're going
However
to
long it takes.
spend however many dollars to be locked into this together with random strangers, hundreds of strangers. We've all signed this agreement in our life, right? If we want to go places.
Yep.
Why? Why do you think you could do this above other? I mean, we know people are selfish. We know people have whatever. You could be intoxicated. I don't care. We all signed this agreement, and you should be banned for life from every airline. You should be banned from air travel completely. You should be on a no-fly zone. You don't deserve to ever get to travel overseas again unless you want to take a boat. That's my
No,
opinion.
no, no, no. You don't deserve to ever leave the country that you're from again.
I said no fly zone. That's everything. No fly
So
list.
I initially thought we have to make them swim for their food, but no, you're not allowed to leave the country that you're from again. You get sent back on a plane in handcuffs and you never get to leave again.
I second here. Our last who's hot of this week is Victor Hovland. He also won this weekend in the PGA Tour. He won $3.6 million the on Sunday. He said he was going out to celebrate, said he was going to go have a couple cocktails, enjoy himself. Awesome. He deserves it. And then he shows up Monday morning to caddy in, I assume, like a qualifier for his former college teammate. And I do have to say his roommate, and he did just make $3.6 million and he has a roommate. Not judging, seems a little odd, but whatever. And he went and caddied for 36 holes for his buddy. Like you're a legend if you're willing to do that. And I mean caddy, like fully carry the bag for
Yes.
36 holes, read the greens for him, like no ego, $3.6 million check in the bank, doesn't care. And it's just the good guy story of the week. He is a good guy, and I'm a Hovland fan now.
Yes, he finally has broken through. He's been kind of on the cusp. He was in the final group when Brooks Koepka won the PGA Championship a few weeks ago, and he played really good, but Brooks just beat him. He just played a little bit better. But Hovland historically had kind of given tournaments away
Yeah.
in the final round, but not this year. And he won 3.6 Schmilly, and then he was a great guy and caddied, I bet, with a bit of a hangover.
Let's move on to our last who's not of the week. We can finally touch on your house touring. Your It's a not, so the not going well, I assume. What has
It's just a not out of the week because we spent most of the day yesterday, Sunday, June 4th, looking at homes, and we thought we were going to put an offer on this one home, and then we really went back and forth and lots of discussion, and we're like, do we do it? Do we not do it? What do we do? Okay, let's offer this number. Let's go through the process. We're now in this was home number two that we were going to offer on. We did one a few weeks ago, but there were 13 offers on the home, and we were in the top five, but of course we didn't win. Otherwise, I would have talked about that.
right?
So it's just really hard because you have to find stuff that's in the right location. We found another place in Dorchester, Mass, but it'd be an hour and a half commute for me to get from door to door from the home to the office, and that's including like travel to the train station and then from the train station to the office. And an hour and a
Oof.
half is just it's not good and it's not happening. So
No.
it's just really hard. So it's my who's not of the week, just because like who it could we could find something in 2 weeks or we could find something in 3 months and we don't really know.
Yeah. It's definitely. I mean, I talk about how hard it is with apartments, but houses are even crazier right now, especially with the market too, with interest rates are insane at the moment. But it is crazy. You don't know. It's even more permanent. Like an apartment, you could be like, you know what? This will do. This will do for a year. Like if you land on something that you're like, I could put an application in, whatever. I could move in a year. House is a different story. You got to like really think about All the added variables more so than just like shelter. It's very interesting.
More than just shelter. Yes, it is much
Yeah.
more than just shelter. So it's a learning process. We'll get through it, but it's another of my who's not hot of the week.
Just another thing going on in your life.
Yep.
Just got so much going on.
Yep.
Any big plans for this weekend?
Going to a wedding
Right.
up at the Cliff House in Maine, so that'll be cool. I've never been there. Um, so yeah, it's exciting. It'll be really really fun. Got a new tie for it, so I'm excited to wear my new
Wow.
tie. I got some new brown shoes to go with my suit, so I'll be looking nice.
Ooh,
And yeah, other than that, just we're traveling up there on Thursday, so it'll be a great weekend. Hopefully we get some good weather and yeah. What
that's
about you?
exciting. Going to Montreal this weekend. I talked about my trip. I'm gonna be walking. So going to Montreal Thursday, flying up to Syracuse on Wednesday night at a 10:30 p.m. flight. So
Ooh.
everyone say your prayers that that actually takes off from
Yeah,
JFK
what?
to the Syracuse airport, and there'll probably be 10 people on the plane. It lands at it has to be later than 10:30 actually because it lands at 12:20 a.m. So
So
I'm just
is it at
hoping
11:30?
it must be because that flight is 40 minutes. It's late. I gotta check. I can't even check into my flight or tomorrow night. Like I'm gonna have to stay up to check into my flight. Like I can't go to bed. It's quite late. I'm hoping that there's just some pilots who need to get home, so they need to fly the plane back there. That's my hope and
Yeah,
prayer. But it'll be very interesting flight, and then the weekend will be fun. The weather looks good. I've never been to Montreal, so trying to scope out some tourist activities and some restaurants and things, but that'll be fun. So that's everything. Anything else before we go?
it's 4-0 now. So
Yeah.
this game is officially over. The Vegas Golden Knights will have a 2-0 lead. Bobrovsky got pulled. The arena's going nuts. They got cheerleaders with gold pom poms. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So
It's just sad, 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 sad.
they'll be going back to Sunrise, Florida, up 2-0. I'm predicting a 4-1 Vegas Golden Knight Stanley Cup victory in Vegas. I think it's probably Saturday. Or it's Monday. Yeah, it's probably on Saturday.
Yeah, and let it be known that before the series started, I told Ethan he jinxed the Panthers and it's coming true. So he's the jinxer. You don't want him on your side. And that's everything. That's all I got. I hope everyone
Some
has a
other
great week.
news,
Oh,
it seems that Josh Allen might be on the cover of Madden
another jinx.
24. Yep. So that's another jinx, but it's just some other news. So if people have stuck around this long, they're going to learn that too.
Yeah, well, congrats. You learned that little piece of information.
Some people want to know that stuff.
You're okay. Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, on that note, have a great week, everyone. We will talk to you next week.
Woo!
Woo!